Hello. Okay, so they rotate the garbage pickup here. Basically, every time there's a holiday, you get pushed to the next day of the week, so the trashman can have a day off for the holiday. So we had it on Mondays, Monday. Labor Day came up this Monday, so we got pushed to the next day, or so I thought. So yesterday I put my trash can out because it's Tuesday, the new trash day, and nothing happens. And yeah, sometimes, they pick it up at different times of day, so I wait and I wait and I wait. Nothing happens. Check online. Maybe I got this wrong somehow. Starting September 1st, we will be redoing the trash. So my trash pickup day is now Friday instead of Tuesday. Nothing wrong with that, I guess. I can go a few extra days. My can's not full. My problem is they announce this online. Now, if I move, I will go online and I'll check, my trash pickup day because I'm living in a new house. Makes perfect sense. If I take a few days off, vacation or whatever, come back, it's been a while since I've had my trash picked up, I might go online and check, double check the date, make sure I'm putting my can out at the same right time. Makes perfect sense. The idea that I'm going to randomly check their site from time to time, just in case they decide to redo the schedule, that's obsessive, a bit of obsessive compulsive behavior. That doesn't make sense at all. But that's apparently what I was supposed to do. In fact, I am probably suspect that if I had called down there and said, hey, why hasn't my trash been picked up, they would have referred me to the website. Again, have no reason to check the website because I have no reason to suspect they're going to change the date of pickup. But leads me to, so this was a long time ago, 20, 30 years back. Heard someone talking on the radio, I believe, talking about how any business that doesn't have a website is a bad business or is going to be run out of business, or you need a website in order to do business in the 21st century, or something to that effect. That said, there are a lot of bad business websites out there. In fact, there are some good ones, but there are a lot of bad ones. The whole idea that having a good website, well, a good website is good for business. A website, period, is not. If you have a good website, it's good for business. If you have a bad website, it's probably bad for business, I would hope. Because, I say hope, I would hope, because I think people should put an effort into things if they want to succeed, and that would mean maintaining a good website. That's sort of what I want to look at, is just the idea of business websites and some of the bad things I've come across with them in the past and wondering about them. And I'm going to go into government websites too, because that's, my introduction here. I really hate government websites because they're so poorly organized. It's like you have to think like they do. That's actually the problem with almost any website, is you have to think like the web designer in order to navigate it. And some web designers decide, hey, I got to make this as friendly as possible, and others do it however they would run a business. And their business is not to run a retail business, it is to design webs or websites. So you can do with that what you want. So, like the government websites I hate, especially I hate the ones, they got the menu at the top, then some of them have a menu going down the side. Some of them have a menu going down both sides. So you got to figure out what you want. They got a search function, but if you have to think like they do to search. And also the search is going to link you with a bunch of stuff irrelevant. You know, usually, or that's been my experience with most websites is you even when you use their search function, you have to scroll through a bunch of completely irrelevant stuff to get what you actually want. Now then, so before we even get to websites, I mean, what we're dealing with, Microsoft Word comes out, and used to be you buy Word and you would get a manual to go with it, and the manual is usually pretty bad. You know, you can arrange your screen, whatever your document is, you can have it do in columns. How do you do that? Well, get the manual, look up columns. There is no columns in the manual. Look up. Here we go. Layout. You got to go to layout to figure out how to do columns. What will it tell? It'll tell you go to the layout tab, click on it, choose columns. So yeah, if I'm thinking I got to look up layout in the manual, why do I need the manual if I can just go to layout on the menu? So, like I said, you have to know how to use, or you had to know how to use Word in order to navigate their manual. And I use that as an example because, again, we're talking about websites. That's the way some of them are. Like I said, you have to think like the person who designed it in order to use it. And so what seems obvious to me wasn't obvious to the guy who designed it. And what seems obvious to him isn't always obvious to me. So some web businesses, their sites are just really bad because you can't find what you want. Somehow they say in business, I don't know how. Then, of course, you've got to figure out, is your site going to, how much useful is your site? Now, there is one, bought from a place. Look through what you want. So many in stock. 2 in stock, 3 in stock, 4 in stock. Okay, that's cool. So, out of stock. That's always a nice feature. So, I actually hate it when out of stock comes up first. They should arrange it so out of stock stuff is at the very bottom. So I don't find what I want, I can scroll down, okay, but they do sometimes have it. As opposed to, I'm scrolling through, oh, here it is, nope, that's out of stock. Scroll through, here it, nope, that's out of stock. Have all the out of stock stuff at the very bottom. That would be a good web, business site design. Few people do it. Some do, few do. But, okay, 2 in stock, so I order it. Get an email. That item's out of stock. Okay. It's entirely possible somebody put it in their basket while I was filling my basket and someone else took it. Go back to the site, look things up. What? 2 in stock. Maybe they got more. Order it, get an email, out of stock. So if you're going to do online inventory, you got to keep it maintained. Check back several times. There were always 2 of these items in stock, when in reality there weren't. Because now, I am not a computer programmer, but I know enough math and I know enough about programming that you should be able to interface your ordering and your inventory system. So if someone does actually put something in their inbox or actually completes a purchase, it'll update your inventory and it'll say 1 in stock instead of 2 in stock. Or in the case of this one item I was trying to order, out of stock. That should be possible. In fact, you would think a good web designer would suggest it. Especially if someone's going to have their real-time inventory online. But no, there is at least one business who doesn't do that. Uh, like I said, I've dealt with this one business. So the idea, having a website is good for your business. Yes, it is, but maintaining your website is better for your business. Yeah, I would go so far as to say that having a poorly maintained website is terrible for your business because people are going to hate you for it eventually. Word's going to get out. No one's going to want to order from you. I still have no problem with businesses that don't have websites because I like the old idea you gotta walk in and actually talk to someone before you buy something. Maybe call them up, ask them if something's in stock. Talk to a real person. And more importantly, not have someone say, oh, you can find that out on our website. That's a completely new form of laziness is that's on our website as opposed to actually telling people what they want to know. That's it. I actually thought I'd go longer on this than I was going to, but it's just the idea again. Somebody said you must have a website to run a business, or else you're going to fail. And I can think of several suggestions or several examples in real life where I would say the opposite's true. Actually doing the work and talking to people in person would be better for business than relying on the website. Now, I know a lot of people are too lazy to call people up and talk to businesses and stuff like that. Would I want their business? Well, I mean, technically, yes, I'd want any business. But at the same time, I'd sort of like to have a reputation for talking to people and getting things done. I think that would be better for a business than just having a good website. That's it. Like I said, modern technology isn't always better than the old ways. Hearing that from an old guy, of course. Have a nice day.